And we will follow that with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mayor James,
Here.
Vice Mayor Ambrose,
Here.
Commissioner Grunder,
Here.
Commissioner White,
Here.
Commissioner Wood.
Here.
Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I thank you all. With that, I will ask for a motion on the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and second that the agenda be approved as printed. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign, please. Agenda approved, 5-1. Item D is approval of consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda for June 8th, 2023 Commissioner meeting.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and second that the consent agenda be approved. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign, please. Consent agenda approved. We have no special presentations tonight. We have no unfinished business tonight. So we will go right along to item G, which is citizens' requests and comment for issues that are not on the agenda. Please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 5 minutes, please. Anyone from the audience?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Could I get someone to hand these out? I'm sorry, Bruce. Thank you. It's for reading purposes.
I'll take his if he's got two. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners.
Oh, good
For the
evening.
record, my name is Linda Jones. I am again before you to speak about civility during commission meetings. I spoke about this issue during the meeting February 23rd. My comments didn't seem to resonate with the commission in general. I'm going to read parts of the first paragraph under Rules of Civility from the Rules of Procedure for Municipal Meetings. Copies of this verbiage have been provided for you to follow if you like. The City of High Springs encourages citizen participation in the democratic process and recognizes and protects the right of freedom of speech afforded to all. As the Commission conducts the business of the city, rules of civility shall apply. Commissioners, city officials, and members of the public are to respectfully communicate according to the Commissioner's rules of procedure. Persons shall speak only when recognized by the presiding officer, and at that time shall refrain from engaging in personal attacks and derogatory or offensive language. During citizens' requests and comments at the last commission meeting, June 8th, disparaging comments were again directed at the chamber and specifically the president. At the conclusion of his speech, chuckles were heard as usual from the dais, particularly the mayor since her microphone was on. I will also mention the meeting of March 9th, which Nancy Piety was speaking on item number 3 on the agenda, creating a utility district. As she was concluding, and lastly, the bell rang, and the city manager told her she was over the 3-minute limit several times and asked the chief to handle this, meaning to have her removed. In the past, it has been the general rule to let a speaker finish their thought. Again, reading from the rules of procedures for municipal meetings under Rule 8, presiding officer. The mayor is responsible for conducting meetings in a manner which preserves order and decorum, attacks on personalities, etc. Excuse me. The city manager chose to speak out of turn and was exceptionally rude. I had an occasion to reread the city charter last week and read the preamble, which I will now read. This municipal government exists to protect the governed, not the governing, and exists in order to provide the public with full and accurate information to promote efficient administration management, to make government accountable to the people, and to ensure fair and equitable treatment to all persons. The orderly, efficient, and fair operation of government requires the participation of individual citizens. Citizens are encouraged to exercise their rights with dignity and restraint so as to avoid any sweeping acceleration in the cost of government because of the exercise of individual prerogatives, and individual citizens are encouraged to grant respect for the dignity of public office. Somehow the words in the rules and the preamble, in the rules, comma, and the preamble of the city charter have been forgotten, and it would be nice to see civility to the citizens return to the meetings.
Thank you. Anyone else?
David Lynch. I would just like to remind the commissioners that the citizens of this community don't want any more large developments. And remember that the springs are under stress. Each new house that is built takes water away from the springs. Moving on to another subject, High Springs Brewing. Do the commissioners want the name of their city associated with a product that kills 400 people each day?
Thank you.
Yvonne Andrews. Today I noticed again that the builders were putting on a roof. And as before, on one of the houses on my street on 225th Terrace, I don't know if you all were aware that it was raining from morning up until I don't know what time. But I contacted the code enforcement and building permit. I guess they knew that they were off today, so they went ahead and did what they were doing. I sat there and I watched them. Again, they were putting on the roof, and I could see the water popping. Pop, pop, pop. Every time they put a staple or whatever it was they were doing, putting this roof on that house. I feel sorry for whomever it is that live in that house with all of that mildew, because I know it's going to be mildew up under that roof, because nobody is inspecting or has inspected that roof that is going on that house. So I don't know what is going on in High Spring, but it's ridiculous how they're letting these houses go up the way they're going up. I know that the houses that's on my street are full of mildew, and I feel sorry for the people that are moving in those houses with those roofs, because I know I witnessed the fact of how those roofs were being put on and some of the other things that were going on. Not that I'm a builder, but I know some of the things that are not properly done. And I don't know what's going on with these code people and these building inspectors or whatever you want to call it we have, but they're not doing what's supposed to be done.
Anyone else? Okay, I will close the public hearing area, and we will move on to the next item, which is item number 1 on the new business.
Madam Mayor, this is ordinance number 2023-05, an ordinance of the City of High Springs, Florida, amending the official zoning map of the City of High Springs Land Development Code, amending as amended related to the rezoning of less than 10 contiguous acres of land pursuant to an application Z 23-01 by the property owner of said acreage, providing for rezoning from PD plan development to R1 residential of certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of High Springs, Florida, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion at the appropriate time will be to pass ordinance number 2023-05 as read by title only. And of course, you have the option to pass it, to continue it to a date certain in the future, or you can deny the ordinance. This is a quasi judicial matter, Madam Mayor, so we should start off by swearing in anyone who intends to talk about the matter. And the next step of the procedure will be to ask any of the commissioners or yourself if you have any ex parte communications or anything that affects your impartiality. So if you'd like, I can swear anybody in. Angela, if you want me to do it, I'm happy to do it. But so if there's anyone who intends to speak on this matter, Ashley and Sue Weller, our former mayor. Is there anybody
Joe
else?
Tillman might, yeah.
If you will all stand, please, in the audience, and just at the time, give your full name, sir, please.
Ashley Stavatos.
You swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Madam Mayor, everybody's been sworn. Now, if you go down the line and ask for any ex parte communication, please.
Okay, commissioners? Commissioner Grother?
Madam Mayor, I haven't had ex parte.
Wait,
I'm
they
sorry.
don't speak up, so it'll go on record, please.
No, brief communication with Mr. Tillman, but no.
I haven't had any communication with Mr. Tillman, but I did attend the plan board meeting on Tuesday, so I heard their conversation about this, if that matters.
No, it doesn't, and I'll follow up with both of you all in just a minute after we finish. Is there anything as a part of the communication or anything in your communication that has caused you to be biased or unable to make a decision based upon the evidence and testimony you hear today? But we'll do that in just a second.
No, ma'am. None whatsoever.
Vice Mayor?
No.
And neither do I.
Okay, now, next step is there any part of your communication that caused you to be biased or make up your mind or make your decision before we hear from staff and the witnesses here today?
Absolutely not.
No.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, everybody's been sworn. We've gone through the ex parte, and so now it's time to go through the actual procedure itself.
All right, open for discussion.
Can I?
Yes, you can.
So this is a zoning case to change from planned development to R1. The applicant is Joe Tillman. And what he wants to do is put a mobile home there and then in a few years build a home. And this is his family's property that he now owns, and that's what he'd like to do. Staff is recommending approval of the zoning because the zoning, again, is from PD to R1, and as you can see, there is R1 touching it, so it's appropriate. I understand there has been concern in the community about the mobile home. The mobile home is not to be considered during the zoning case because the mobile home is, that use requires a special use permit, and that's approved by the city manager. And since Joe is an officer, then I will be, and it's a conflict of interest for me to make that decision, I will be having one of our planning consultants handle it. So just want you to know you know, definitely you can talk about it and put your feelings about it on the record, because whatever's on the record, I will be giving to our planning consultants. but we can't consider that in the zoning.
Okay. Anybody have any comments here? No.
Madam Mayor, I have one question. Bruce, at the plan board meeting, there was talk about there being a driveway that had been put in. That's not this property, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is another family
Because
member that's putting it in.
there was a
Thomas-
little bit of confusion about
Yes.
that on Tuesday or
Thomas
Monday.
Thomas and myself are aware. We've been working on getting in contact
Okay.
with the appropriate family member for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Any audience questions?
Evening,
Good evening.
Sue Weller, and I live on 154th Place, which is right around the corner from this. I have no objection to it being rezoned to R1. What I do have an objection, and I'm putting on the record, for a mobile home to be put on that property. There are no mobile homes in that area. Those are large tracts of land with site-built homes, and I understand from what the city manager just said that possibly the mobile home would be temporary till a house could be built, but I would still object to a mobile home being put on that property. When we were at the planning board meeting, there were several other citizens that were there and objecting to it as well. And so I just want to make sure for the record that you have before you that there is an objection of having a mobile home put on that property. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, you can.
Good evening. My name is
Good
Joe
evening.
Tillman. That is my property. I wasn't going to mention it because I don't like sense of entitlement whatsoever. But as the city manager stated, I am a police officer here in the city of High Springs. However, this has nothing to do with that. I don't want to be judged by that or anything influenced by that. That property is my parcel. It was given to me by my grandfather, Sonny, and my grandmother, Lucille, and all my aunts. The house, the log cabin that is right next to that property, which is a different parcel, it's a 5-acre parcel. It's the house I grew up in. That's mine and my dad, Robert Tillman's house. It's a 2-story log cabin, and my aunt, Amy Tillman, lives there currently. The parcel, which you see on the left side of the outlined black box, directly next to it is where my dad and my grandmother are buried and laid to rest. That is 1 acre, and it's a legal cemetery where we will all be placed. So essentially, my dad and my grandmother and my family will be in my front yard. I've heard concerns from people that were at that planning board and whatnot, and there is mobile homes in that area, okay? There's a mobile home directly to the left of my property, which is right in the middle between Sonny's house, which is 22407 Northwest 174th Ave. In the middle between my property and Sonny's on that strip that says R1, not the big yellow piece, but the strip that says R1, that's a 150-acre parcel. Sonny's is at the very top, mine's at the very bottom. In the middle where the 1 is, there is a mobile home there, owned by Bruce and Kay Bennett. And I know this because my dad placed that mobile home there and gave that mobile home to Bruce and Kay Bennett. The land is still owned by my Tillman family, however, the mobile home is owned by him. It was given to him over 30-plus years ago. I was 2 or 3, I'm 31 now, I was 2 or 3 when we moved into the log cabin, which Amy Tillman now lives in. That is on the left side. On the right side, if you go down Northwest 154th Place, there is a mobile home directly to the right that I could be mistaken, but Stuart Smith lives in. It can be seen from Northwest 154th Place. So that is 2 mobile homes within less than half of a mile of my property. The other concern, the driveway that Miss Catherine White's, sorry, I just didn't want to disrespect you, mentioned, that is my grandfather and aunt's driveway. That driveway was supposed to be for 16202 Northwest 222nd Street when my Aunt Marion Tillman built the house that me and my dad lived in. However, she built the driveway going in a different direction, but the driveway was supposed to come off of 222 Street at that point. Now, that driveway is being corrected for Amy's house, my old house, and it's also going to be used for our cemetery. That is completely my grandfather and Aunt Diane. I have not done anything with that. I know there was concerns about flooding because a natural berm was taken off, because the berm on Northwest 222nd Street is approximately 9 feet tall. It is very large. My home, my mobile home, would be placed on top of that. There's also a very heavily tree line that lines Northwest 222nd Street. My mobile home would not be able to be seen clearly from Northwest 222nd Street. I'm not a real estate agent. I'm a police officer. I know barbecue, flag football, and policing, and a little bit about each. The fact that it is said that my mobile home, which is brand new, would devalue anybody else's property when there's nobody around that I really don't feel it would affect, I would like to get somebody with an expert opinion on property to make that decision. And then the other counter to that is there's no mobile homes in the area when in fact there is mobile homes in that area. There's one right on Northwest 154th Place, which is Northwest 222nd Street at this curve. The reason why it changes names from 222 Street to 154th is because it changes direction. As soon as you take that curve, there's a mobile home straight to the right that you can see as soon as you hit that curve. I seen it Tuesday. So also, it is temporary. I want to be able to raise my son on the same property that I grew up on my entire life, which is all that we just sold. If I can't build a house there, the only other option I'm going to have to do at this moment, because of the economic impact of the world right now, I have a 700 credit score. I have one car payment, and that's my only debt. However, due to interest rates, my debt-to-income ratio, I cannot build a new construction loan at the moment. So my plan, just to advise anyone that has any opposition or questions, is in 3 to 5 years, more likely 3, live in my mobile home while I'm building my house, and my house will be built by the time that 5th year comes. Because the mobile home is going to be on the back side of the property, and then the house will be built in the middle of the property. And the septic, A and B septic out of Fort White, they can vouch for that because they were just at the property for the septic. And I told them those plans, and we are putting in a big septic in order for a house, for my home, so we don't have to go back in and redo it and pay thousands of more dollars to rip the old one out and put the new one in. So that is my plan. That's always been my plan. I just want to, my son's 3, he will be 4 in August. We've lived in an apartment his entire life, except for the first 8 months of his life. So for 3 years, we've lived in 151 apartments. I have nowhere to throw a football with my son. I have nowhere to train with my son. I'm very active in sports, and so is he. He runs everywhere. I still have this 1 acre plus the cemetery acre, and it's to my knowledge that Bridlewood is everything that's green right there from when my aunts just sold Tillman Acres. I have little knowledge on that, but I know it will take them a little while to get to where I'm at. So essentially we have a lot of land for my son to play, and that's my main focus, is my son. His name's Baker. And devaluing someone's property, I do not think my mobile home will devalue anybody's property, because it's not touching anybody's property but my family's. everyone in my family is fine with it. The other concern was in the early 2000s, my Aunt Amy tried to put a mobile home where that one is, where the other mobile home is. There was also a first one right in front of it. That mobile home is 16602 Northwest 222nd Street. That mobile home burned down, and years later, it was denied for my aunt to put another mobile home there. I'm not sure the thing on that, but that is that. So,
All right. Thank you for that information.
yes, ma'am.
Anybody else from the audience? Okay. All right. Commissioners, what's your pleasure? Yes.
So this is a rezoning, and it's a quasi-judicial process because it's a process, you know, and the intended use isn't a part of our decision. It's does it qualify to be R1? And given where it's located and everything, it does. It meets all those requirements. So for me, my decision's about the zoning, and I don't see a reason to deny it, because the conversation about how it'll be used and whatever is a different conversation, different process. So.
I completely agree.
Madam Mayor, I have one question, and this stems more from the Plan Board meeting than tonight. There were several people at that meeting that hadn't been notified about the zoning because they were outside the 300-foot radius. Is that part of our LDC? Is that state statutes? What is it that confines that to a 300-foot? Because there's a gentleman here, and Christy looked it up, and he lived 360 feet, so he had not been notified.
So that is an state statute and LDC thing. And so that's why we do 300, because we don't want to start, whatever we do, we want to do the same square footage for every zoning case. And you got to stop somewhere. So, you know, we could always change the LDC, or, you know, when we do the rewrite, but we could make it like a larger area. We could not make it a smaller area. Right now, we're just following the LDC.
Okay. Yeah, because, I mean, 360 feet, he's 60 feet farther. He's going to be as impacted as somebody who's 280 feet. And I think that when we do redo the LDC, it'd be nice to at least go out a distance of reasonable neighbors that are going to be around the area.
Yeah, I want it to be the same for everyone, whatever
Of course,
the number is. It's
yeah,
not hard.
absolutely.
I mean, you just send a few more
Yeah,
letters.
yeah. Yeah, but there's nothing presented here that would prevent or preclude us from changing the zoning. It is an appropriate request, independent of the structure that's placed on there. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
I'm willing to make the motion that we accept the rezoning as set forth.
So I'll second that.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded that ordinance 2023-05 be approved. And at this time is the roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, ordinance approved 5-0. Our next item is item number 2. Discuss, consider, and act on declaring some surplus material.
We have 4 items from Public Works that we would like to surplus. They are no longer useful to the department, so I will go through them briefly. So we have an Outback brush cutter. It operates, it needs a new battery, but we no longer use it. We don't need it. The Miller Bobcat welder, it's too large for what we need. Thomas is the only one that's qualified to use it based on its complexity, and we would use a consultant anytime we would need welding of this magnitude. So it's better to get rid of it and get something that we can use more easily. The Vibrostat, it's a drum compactor, and we do not use it. It doesn't run, and I wouldn't say it's scrap, but it's not useful to us. It does not run. And the last one is the Cell-Air air compressor. It is a little bit on the old side, and it does not run. Again, it's of no use to us at this point. It's not worth the money to fix it, given its value. and we would like to declare that as surplus as well. That's it.
Anybody have a question here?
Yes, ma'am, I've got one question. It says here, Diane, that you're recommending surplusing the mower. So we're only going to try to sell the mower? We're not going to try to sell the other?
No, once they're deemed surplus, then we dispose of
Okay,
them
'cause
in
it
the
said here,
appropriate way. We
just
would
the mower.
we would either, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
That's okay.
We
I just wanted to make sure we could sell all of it.
Put them on gov deals, scrap them, et cetera,
Okay.
depending on what the item is.
Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yes.
I'm glad to see this coming forward. And as we move into the budgeting process, you know, for continue to look for items like this, especially things that move, because we're insuring them. And if there's one way to lower our insurance, and I know that like even with some of our police cars, while we keep it as a backup or we keep it for parts, if it's tagged and roadworthy, we're paying full insurance on it, whether it's used or not. So whether it's this kind of stuff or a road grader or police cars or vans, I'm glad you're bringing these things to us and hope the staff continue to look for opportunities to make sure that what we've got sitting around is useful.
Anything else? Any comments from the audience?
Good evening, Madam Mayor,
Good evening.
Commissioners. You know, I'm really glad I come to these meetings to pay attention to what's going on. So, can you tell me what surplus means?
Surplus is when something's exceeded its useful life or we can't use it, then we sell it and get the money and put it back in whatever fund is appropriate based on where the item came from.
Okay. Well, when you make a decision on that, I would like to be included in inspection and an offer on the equipment. As you know, I deal with a lot of people that are in that industry, and what might be old to you or not useful to the city might just be an asset to someone who's still working. So, you know, it's depending on what it is, there's people out there that are in need of that equipment, whether it be for parts or something like that. I'd hate to see it go to a scrapyard.
Oh, yeah, so Diane can get with you.
Sure.
And we have places we put it, and so and let you know when we're gonna put those out.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? No? All right, Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve surplusing these 4 items and clean them up and get them on gov deals and get some money back in the general fund.
Second.
All right. It has been properly moved and second that the items listed be declared surplus. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. And our next item is the city attorney's report and update. Okay, moving right along to the city manager.
So the governor recently was his final step in approving appropriations, and we put one in for Priest Theater. And so we're gonna be getting $1,040,000, and so how to move forward on that will be coming to y'all at future commission meetings. We're very excited.
That's it?
The chamber has a ribbon cutting on Saturday with it was Harbor Acupuncture, June 24th, 11 a.m. Is that correct? And then for any commissioners that want to attend, the mayor and I are going for the Alachua County League of Cities is on Tuesday at 6:30. It's in Hawthorne. And I think that's the big stuff.
All right, very good. Nothing? All right. You all right over there? Oh, okay. Commissioner Grant?
Yeah, I normally keep these things pretty short and don't really say much, but I've had the opportunity to go back and watch quite a few of different committees that they put up on YouTube and whatnot, and go back and kind of educate myself. And I'm just going to be honest, I'm really disappointed in some of the uses of the platforms that people are given in order to badmouth city and city employees. And so I hope that moving forward, we can open up that line of communication to better do that. And that way we're not trashing the place that we all say we love until it comes up something we don't like. And then all of a sudden we hate this place and we want to say all sorts of bad things about it. Our city staff does an absolutely incredible job with the tools that they have. And they should be recognized for that and celebrated for that. And I'll be honest, I won't stand for sitting there and listening to somebody badmouth people without actually having full conversations with them and an open line of communication. So I hope that as a city commission, we can maybe move forward with opening that line of communication and doing a better job with some of those committees. And I have no problem spearheading something like that in order for us to sit there and talk. Some of those committees are not made to be personal platforms for people, and I will not accept that. I don't appreciate that, and I don't appreciate anybody being called out and being talked bad about when everybody's just trying to get the same thing done in this town, which is move us forward in an appropriate and respectful way, and honestly, and keep this place going and make it the place we all want to see. So we got to come together and work better for that. You know, the finger pointing and the blaming has got to stop. We got to come together. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Thank you.
I just have a couple of things. I know it's going to be a short meeting. I'll make it just a little bit longer. Maybe as a pleasant follow-up to that, we all received a copy of an email that Chief Shepard responded to a citizen who had emailed him about an exemplary interaction between 4 of his officers and somebody who was in true distress. And officers Ethan Presnell, James Davis, Tanya Avery, and Sergeant Jason Taylor were described in her email as the officers exercised restraint and courtesy toward a very unfriendly individual. And they de-escalated the situation. There was no arrest needed. And they even brought food back to the family because they were in such crisis. And specifically, Officer Avery was called out about her calm and friendly manner. She recognized this individual was having a real crisis, and she really connected to her personally. And that's stuff that they do every day. And we don't hear that in the news because, you know, and it's not clickbait, but that's what these guys are doing every single day. And we're so, so lucky to have them. And I'm so grateful to the lady who reached out to Chief to let him know, because most of us don't see that. And also, I want to give a shout out to the officers on Tuesday, Chief, for running the manual lights to keep the traffic going to the interstate. It was hot and nasty.
We actually got an email on that one too from a couple out of Kentucky.
Really?
I didn't share that one, but yeah, they commented and sent us an email.
Traffic was backed up to Tillman Acres, trying to come out to the interstate, and you know, there's just so much they could do, and even Treese was working. During the summer, Treese was working, so I really appreciate them. And I went to, Bruce and I went to the county commission meeting on Tuesday, and they mentioned having a joint meeting between the city and the county, and I wanted to follow up to know if we've got a date on that for the utility district conversation.
We're meeting with county staff on the 29th to start working on the interlocal, and we'll have a meeting date set from that point.
For the public to come to and have a conversation. To the 29th, so it'll be sometime in July, maybe?
Yeah, that's what we're thinking, probably the middle of July.
Because the county commissioners were they were very receptive to coming out here and listening, and I really appreciated that. They were pretty plugged in. They asked some pretty good questions. And I got an email from somebody at the Civic Center. They used the Civic Center recently, and they said it was a real mess. And I don't have a specific date, and I don't want to get anybody particularly targeted, but do we have a way that we can assess a cleaning fee or something if there are folks that use it that don't clean up?
Well, it's, we have our deposit, and then we're supposed to use the deposit and not fully refund it if we go in there and have to clean it up.
But how would you know that if it was such a quick turn, you know?
Well, the issue is that to be able to know that, we actually have to have a staff that's managing it and all the time. Which financially, we have a lot of things for staff to do. Elliot, our new Parks and Recreation Director, I will talk to him and see if he has any ideas that we haven't done in the past. And these are usual conversations that people in cities have and usual problems. So see if there's something we can do better. And if you do find out the date, it would be helpful.
I'll ask and I'll send that to you. I just didn't want to
Okay. Yeah.
make anything like that public. But yeah, I can certainly follow up on that, no problem.
Yeah, I'd appreciate it.
Because, you know, if you're doing it on Friday night and somebody's using it Saturday morning, who's going to have the time to check, you know?
Right.
So, and you and I have been having conversations about the Wednesday food giveaway, and I figured I'd bring that just publicly up. Some folks said something at the plan board meeting on Tuesday about there being some real traffic hazards now, being really concerned about going down the road because of all of the traffic. And I don't know if there's a way that we could maybe reach out to the faith-based community, maybe there's a church or somewhere that it might be better suited. I don't know. But I think it'd be great if we could open up that conversation. Maybe whoever it is that's running that could team up with others in the community, like Pastor Sammy or the community outreach. You know, because I know it's causing a lot of infrastructure issues that we just don't have the money to fix. And I know they're taking care of people in need, so can we find a way to maybe move that somewhere that would be less impactful to city?
So we've been looking for other places. There is one person, I don't know if they'd want their name mentioned or not, that is has property. That's what the church that offered his property. He does want a shelter or something for the cars coming underneath. And I think it was a reasonable cost, but I don't think everyone might not agree with me because the amount, you know, the service for, you know, giving away food and providing that service and then getting them away from an area that they're, you know, causing some issues. I think it's worth it, but that's for y'all to determine if we head that direction. There's one other city site we're looking at. And then we're also, you know, if nothing works, then we will probably eventually have to give them notice.
Do we have a contract with them? Are we contractually obligated to provide them space?
No, we are not contractually
Okay, so we're
obligated.
not
Right, so we can.
legally required.
Yeah, we can tell them they have to not be there at any time. The thought process would be that if it comes to that point, we give them a couple months' notice. But it's like very high on staff's radar. I think I've talked to most of the commissioners about it now.
Yeah.
And so it's to try to come up with something. But, you know, spaces, if anyone wants to come forward and offer space for the food drive, please call the city manager's office because we are looking. The thing is, they've gotten so big now, there's very few places that will accommodate that much traffic. They're kind of a victim of their own success almost. So it's difficult. So.
Well, I mean, if we could partner with others that are already doing it or find another location, I mean, if there's an individual who's willing to use their property, that's great. But in terms of, you know, financial output for the city, if we're not contractually obligated, I think it would be really nice, though, if we could find a way to continue to serve the needs of the people. I know that the Methodist Church recently opened up a food pantry, and maybe whoever is running this could partner with the different people who are already doing this so that we're making sure we're still taking care of the people.
Right, it's a big issue.
And I only one other question. The rezoning for Mr. Tillman's property is on the agenda, and that was just on the planning agenda Monday. The other two issues that were on the plan agenda, is there a reason why they didn't make it over too, or? I mean,
So
they weren't particularly consequential, I was just curious.
The planning commission, the planning council, they help us with that advertising, so we normally there's a meeting and then that it's not heard on, then the next one it is. But we knew there were some time constraints with this one, so we were trying to help facilitate those time constraints. And we do that for people when people ask us special requests and we can accommodate, we try to. And so, and it was at their own risk because they knew that if it didn't give enough time to, and if it failed, that they'd have to pay for more advertising and stuff like that.
All right. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, may I circle back to the Civic Center question for a minute?
Yes.
It's probably the same citizen I spoke to. It would be June 5th would be the complaint date. I went out and looked at the Civic Center after the complaint. That building is way overused. Again, You got people there during the day, it's being used on the weekends again. It's got a lot of use going on again. We just did an update on that building, 2018, 2019, and it's getting worn out again. So we're gonna need to either look at putting some more money in there. Hopefully, with the addition of doing the Catherine Taylor Park project, it'll relieve that building a little bit, but this is also part of the reason we need this multipurpose center as well, to be able to spread some of this stuff out. We don't have, while we can talk about cleaning it and things like that, it's dirty. Cleaning it's just not gonna, it's dingy, it needs to be repainted. We're already looking at having to put new floors in there. There's a lot of rehab in that building that needs to be done, and there's not a week or a weekend that it can be done just because there's somebody in there all the time. So this is what's happening again, is it's getting overused again. You got elder care in there during the day, you've got other groups using it, you've got sports teams using it for banquets and things along those lines. And I mean, you ride by there, there's people in it all the time. So, I mean, it's getting a new roof here shortly, I believe. There was some windows leaking that had to be fixed. It's an older building. We've got to kind of come up with a game plan here, especially when we start getting into strategic planning, we start looking at the uses of these facilities, and we get a facilities master plan. Where are we going to go? That multi-purpose center is something we really need to seriously consider to help alleviate some of the constraints on that building and take some of the burden off of that. What we're doing at Catherine Taylor is going to help some, but that's not going to fix the issue. And until we can come up with a game plan on how we're going to get there, this is just going to be a constant complaint. So I just wanted to let you know we've been following up on it, and I've been in a lot of talks with that citizen about this and trying to see what we can do to alleviate it. Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to let you know. And it was June 5th was when I received a complaint the day of. So I believe it's probably the same citizen. I would guess. We'll talk after the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner?
I guess it's a question for you, Bruce. I know we've been in conversations with DOT, and you can sit down at the table and talk to them now. So, ever been thought about, it's possible, in trying to come through town here, having a turn light for so many minutes you can turn, because that's one of the biggest problems when people trying to turn. Yeah, I'm surprised there have been an accident there. Because is there something warranted for a turn signal?
Well, and when Thomas and I spoke, and I'm going to throw Thomas under the bus here for a minute if I need backup on this, and if I misspeak, Thomas, please come up. When we talked about doing a turn lane, or not turn lanes, but doing some sort of turn signal, the immediate response we got was Main Street parking goes away, we put a center turn lane in, and everybody can go left. That just creates a complete other problem with parking downtown. So the no left turns we're working through right now. On the one, we're working on no left turns. We've talked about that during certain hours, trying to alleviate some traffic coming through. It's every time we try to really change something downtown, as far as modifying that signal or something like that, the standard response seems to be, well, if we get rid of parking, we can do this. So at some point, we're going to need to have a really strong conversation of, do we do away with the parking downtown? And if so, what's going to be the backup plan and where we're going to try to direct people to go?
And you have to put a turn lane there before they can put a turn signal there.
That's what they're telling us, yes, sir.
Because that's...
So, yeah, I mean, and they won't even four-lane it. That's the thing, is there's just enough room on Main Street to do a center turn lane. And the only way to achieve that is to lose both parking spots on both sides.
Well, also with that, instead of, when they're coming from Newberry Road, and they're trying to make that right at the light, which they should keep on down.
It will.
And then take the learn. So is any kind of signage out there? Do they know they can go on?
Not currently. With that ordinance we just did recently and all that stuff going to them, there will be signage saying continue straight, not to turn.
Okay. It'll help a lot. It's just...
So I don't know what the answer is on
yeah,
that.
well, we know. We've been talking about this for...
Yeah, I mean, if we, it's kind of a double-edged sword. If we do away with the parking downtown, it cleans up the traffic and it fixes some things. But if we do away with the parking downtown, then that's going to hurt the businesses downtown. So, I mean, that was part of the push on this compact car parking, and Danielle and I are navigating through that whole thing to assist law enforcement to where it's more enforceable and make it easier where code enforcement can do some stuff as well. And we don't have the answer. And people think the compact car parking downtown is ridiculous, but DOT, whether we want it or not, if these trucks keep hanging over these lines and canoes out in the road and stuff like that, is not gonna give us a choice. Right now, they're playing nice, and they're allowing us to explore some options to see if it helps eliminate some things. They're tired of the big trucks being parked on the sidewalks downtown. They're tired of them hanging out in the road. It's causing issues. This is like a last ditch effort for us. And if we don't get this done here very shortly, they're just gonna come back and say, by this date, this time, we're gonna come in and do this. And last I looked at their paving schedule and things like that, there was some stuff on 2741, State Road 45, whatever you wanna call it, 41, going up towards Newberry. They're looking at some widening and things out there. So I'm willing to bet we have until about that time frame to have some things on our end cleaned up before they come in and tell us what we're gonna do.
Road. Yeah. And the other thing I have is, a while back, Commissioner Willer from the county, she had mentioned about parcel land out off of 236, where the old mine is. The county purchasing that land. So I talked with her. If it's any way possible, we can put it on the agenda as a commissioner, and maybe just asking them, letting them know that we maybe support the county in purchasing that piece of parcel. Because it's my understanding, the developer looking at it now. And we all know if a developer get them 320 acres, what's gonna happen? It's near the old mine out there. Not only near the old mine, which we still got to research that one, there's a cemetery there. So, I don't know, some kind of way if we can preserve that area out there. But it used to be known as Asbury. That used to be an African-American community out there years ago. My people are buried out there. They went to school out there. They farmed out there. So if it's some kind of way, if we as a city, it's not in the city limits, but we can show some type of support in the county purchasing those 320 acres, would be wonderful.
Is that the one right there by the interstate?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Where the old
Who owns it now?
It's privately owned,
Oh, okay.
but it's leased to the mining company.
Okay. So it's a private family.
I can't remember. I know it's a female.
It's a known family from around here that owns it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll make contact with the county next week and see what's the appropriate way to move forward to show support. And see kind of the conservation trust. I think that would be applicable project for them, and maybe try to even, show support from y'all and get on their agenda or something, possibly.
Yeah, they were talking very favorable about that project, even when we were talking about the utility district the other day about the possible purchase of that property and moving forward with it.
Yeah.
So, we'll be over in growth management on the 29th on the other topic. I can talk to them as well, see if maybe we can add it to that agenda while we're having a joint city meeting. We can discuss that as well as maybe a second agenda item if y'all would, if that's the flavor of the commission.
Yeah, because I'm afraid that developer, he gonna throw out some money out there and probably much larger than what the county can.
Water Management District approved a big hunk of money to go towards that purchase. That's in their current budget.
Good. Okay, all right, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor?
Okay, I noticed that there is a place for electric vehicles to charge in High Springs, and I'm sure when it stops raining, the city will have a chance to paint those spaces and put up those signs. But that was a long time coming. As I followed the events on Tuesday, it did not surprise me to see our Engine 29 all nicely set up on the northbound side of the highway with its canopy deployed, which is how I knew it was our truck. And it's my understanding that that engine, which was only the second heavy rescue in the county, has been staying incredibly busy. And I really appreciate the fact that our city has that resource here to serve the county and our citizens. It's pretty darn special. And as we go into this budgeting process, Ashley's job is made that much harder because we all do value not only the fire department, but as Commissioner White said, the police department. And citizens need to remember, as we're looking at things, we can talk about the Civic Center not getting clean, and that rolls right back to how much money we want to make available for Parks and Recreation to staff facilities that are used 7 days a week when we're trying to tell people they're supposed to work on a 40-hour week, and how many staff we're gonna make available. And so there are a lot of really hard decisions that we have to make, and Ashley's gonna be coming to us after talking with all the department heads, and we're gonna look at things, but realize the privilege of two really amazing emergency service departments is very costly. The only other city in the county that has that is Gainesville. There's no other city that has both police and fire. And not only are we compliant, we're way above average. So, it's a hard thing, staff, as you're working on the budget. And, the citizens are real clear that they want those services, so we'll figure it out. But it means we have some challenges. So, that is it that I have, to say, and I appreciate everyone's time, both the audience and staff and commissioners.
Okay, coming from me, I always, each time, try to say thank you to the staff and all the employees of the city for all the good that you do. None of the things that we could do here to benefit our city could be done without you. So as usual, I say thank you for all that you do. And also, I was asked about the Watershed Restaurant here on the corner. And I understand they had a soft opening for it last weekend, which I was unaware of, so I couldn't pass that along. But I also found out they are open Thursday through Sunday, but they don't open until 5 o'clock, from what I'm told. So if you want to go by and check out the Watershed, feel free to do so. I'm sure they would love to have you. And if you know anybody that want to be servers, they say they're looking for servers over there. All right. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.